This is the Digital Agency Insiders Podcast. Inside, you'll learn how to build, grow, and scale your digital marketing agency, all from the comfort of your favorite coffee shop. Let's get started with the show.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Digital Agency Insiders Podcast, the podcast that gives you an inside look into how entrepreneurs built and grew their digital marketing agencies. I am Tabitha Thomas, your host, and we release new episodes each and every Tuesday. So if you like learning about how digital marketing agencies make their business work, hit that subscribe button. So let's jump into today's episode. Today, I have with me Tyler Gillespie. Tyler helps productize service businesses via consulting and co-investing. He has been involved in business building and growing service businesses for over 15 years. He recently built and sold a productized service business, contentpros.io, and is currently sharing his journey of buying and building 300editors.com on his blog. He is also the host of a brand new podcast called Productized Snacks. He's been an owner, a president, founder, co-founder, CEO, COO, and it's currently something he likes to call Thinking Time Chief. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you? Glad to be here.
Super excited to have you with us. So you've been at this for a while, for several years. So what made you want to become an entrepreneur in the first place? And what in the world is Thinking Time Chief?
Yeah, so I think I've originally kind of got pulled into the entrepreneurship kind of game or lifestyle per se. Just family was involved growing up. Grandparents had businesses. My dad had a business, so always helping them. And traditionally, all their businesses were more service-based. So that's really how I kind of got pulled into more offline services with property management, vacation rentals. This is the type of business my dad ran. So that really kind of set the foundation to customer service, sales, customer experience, a lot of these things that actually translated really nicely into, as I worked and brought them online over the years. So that was kind of, the extent. And early on, I just ran with that and also started a few offline businesses and at a pretty young age. And that's kind of what kicked off the journey. Yeah.
It sounds very similar to mine. Both my grandparents and my parents and all of my siblings all have businesses. So it's nice. That's the only thing you ever see, it's a possibility. So
exactly. Yeah. When that's your environment, that's your surroundings. So it's just natural. That's where you go.
Yeah, it is totally right. So tell me about Thinking Time Chief and what is that all about? Because that's an unusual way to classify yourself. What's that all about?
Yeah, I think, for me, it's, titles can mean all sorts of things. And that for me is really my way of prioritizing, pausing, thinking, and pushing myself to just ask better questions. And specifically really trying to find root problems of the issues that you're going through. And in most cases, people are solving problems for just what are called symptoms and not the real root causes and real issues. So it's separating those two in many cases. That originally stemmed from reading a book called The Road Less Stupid by a gentleman named Keith Cunningham. An amazing book. Definitely recommend picking it up. Just a really all around, just great book full of ton of good questions, etc. So he's been kind of my mentor from afar. And he has a process in the book called Thinking Time. And he has a 5-step process that he kind of teaches and walks you through when you read the first part of the book. And I just kind of ran with that and been using that, trying to consistently do a thinking time session every 2 weeks,
Gotcha. So how long is it?
Twice a week.
Okay. Yeah. So how long is those sessions?
Yeah, they're meant to be anywhere from like 45 minutes to an hour, and you kind of run through a series of questions. And I guess I could go through those kind of briefly, but the first is like, maybe you go into it with the intention and you have an issue or a problem or something you're trying to solve. The first part is checking your assumptions. And he has kind of a process to go through and, is what you're assuming actually true? The next part is kind of properly evaluating like second order consequences. So if you do X, there's potentially an upside, which most of us always see, but then there's potentially a downside as well. So you want to evaluate that, and then can you actually live with the downside? So that's a good one. And then the third one is separating problems versus symptoms, which I kind of alluded to just a second ago. Because oftentimes what we think are the real problems are just the symptoms. And then the fourth one is creating a machine. So taking all of those and actually creating a solution. And the fifth one, man, it's kind of skipping my mind here, but I'll pull it up here. But yeah, that's essentially, you kind of go through these processes, and you just sit there, you think, you journal on it. It's just a dedicated time to run through and solve problems with kind of a little bit of a structure to it.
So it's living with intention, basically. You're sitting down intentionally, thinking through things and finding solutions for those.
Exactly.
I like it. So Productize my service. What is that, and how did it come about? Like you said, you family had a service-based business. So how did this one come about?
Yeah, so I think since that first one with the family, it started a couple offline businesses and then transitioned online, and was doing a lot of digital marketing, started an agency originally. And I think when I came across kind of the idea of productizing your service, I think it was originally I read Built to Sell, which is a great book if you've read that. And he kind of alludes to productizing the service of the story in the book of the gentleman he's kind of walking through, and kind of just hit me and just made me realize, I mean, I think a lot of agencies and a lot of service businesses, don't have clear scope, clear price. They say yes to everything, all these common service business traps, which can be great if you just, for cash flow and getting a lot of customers in, but then you almost are creating this chaos and a machine you really don't want. It is very hard to scale, and very hard to scale without you. So the idea of productizing is really just kind of the opposite of all that. And, clear scope, clear price, very niche. Imagine selling a service that someone can just come on your site and purchase just like they're buying something off Amazon. So it's kind of the core idea.
Gotcha.
It doesn't fit exactly to every type of business, but I think if you can approach and look at your service business or agency or freelance business or consultancy in kind of that way, it can really help you kind of build the systems and operations and structure positioning in a way that actually can help you scale, whatever that looks like for you and, your goals for your business. So that's essentially what we did with our last business, the content writing service. And we were able to kind of build that up, scale it to a point where my partner and I were only working about an hour a month.
Oh, wow.
So it was very nice. And we didn't have any intentions of selling it, honestly. It was running, it had a great team in place, and growing month over month. And, we built it with the intention of just putting the systems in place where we could sell it if we wanted to, but and then just so happened my partner wanted to do some different things, and we explored selling it, and we're able to do that very quickly. So since then, I've kind of transitioned, like you said, and productizemyservice.com is essentially sharing a lot of these ideas with service businesses and helping them kind of go on that path of taking their service business as is and transitioning it into more of a productized kind of model, if that makes sense.
Well, it makes total sense. And working like 1 hour a month, I thought you were about to say week. And when you said month, my jaw kind of hit the ground. I can see why you didn't want to sell that. If you've got a profitable business where you're only working at 1 hour a month, that's pretty successful in my eyes. So
it's fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what makes, because you said it's not necessarily for every type of business. So what makes an ideal client for productizing their services?
Yeah, I think everyone in some aspect can productize their service or apply some of the principles to their business. I think it really depends. I mean, it depends really on the goals of, what you're trying to do with your business. Some people are very creative and they want that kind of creative element, like depending on some types of agencies, etc. I think when you're productizing it, you are kind of creating these bumpers or lanes you're staying within in many ways. So that might not fit kind of some people's goals in some ways,
Mm-hmm.
and they may really just enjoy. I've also worked with a lot of people where they enjoy just doing all the work themselves, and they don't want to build a team and scale it, but they can still productize, part of their offer, their pricing, their structure. So I think that's where kind of it depends on kind of what your kind of end goals are for the business you want to build. But
Yeah.
in any case, I've always seen like you're still able to apply a lot of these principles um, to your business. That's going to help in many ways.
Yeah. So what are some of the first steps when you're working with somebody and you're teaching them how to productize their service? What is some of the first things that you do with them?
Yeah, so we've got what we call kind of a productized audit. We kind of walk people through to kind of get an idea of where some of the glaring holes are in their business, and there's a lot of like common things that kind of come up over and over again that most people, and we've alluded to some of them. I mean, you have scaling issues. They're saying
Mm.
yes to everything. They've got a ton of different price points. They might be sending proposals, so they're kind of customizing things. So essentially we're auditing and finding these areas as well. Do you have recurring revenue? Or are you sending invoices? So things like this, we can have some really easy wins by, leveraging some technology and just kind of revamping how they're looking at doing certain things. And then as well, their offer, it needs to be very consistent across the board in what they're offering. And, when we look at it, I'm trying to see how can we offer what you're doing for a fixed price,
Mm-hmm.
in a fixed scope and a fixed timeline. And those are some of the initial things I really try to, when we work with a service business, I'm also trying to get them to think like a SaaS company,
Mm.
and also position their service like an e-com company. So someone can buy on your site just like Amazon, but then you're taking a lot of the aspects that make a SaaS company so valuable, with recurring revenue and subscription-based model, and you're thinking in lifetime value and all these different things that are you know baseline things if you're running a software company, and now it kind of changes the way you look at your service business. So those are some things that we kind of try to tackle, not all at once, but we're first audit, we find kind of the glaring holes in the armor, and then we
Mm-hmm.
can kind of like chip away at ironing those out.
Gotcha. So how long does the process take from, initially talking to somebody and walking them through walking them through everything to where they actually end up with something like that? I mean, it's got to be a process and it's got to take some time,
Yeah,
because I'm assuming if most of them are like most agency owners, it's going to be a little bit of a battle to have them let go of certain things. So how
of
does that go?
course. Yeah, the short answer is it's, I mean, there is a little bit of a timeline, but really because everyone's coming in at different points of the process,
Mm-hmm.
So I think for us, typically, since I'm mainly working with people who aren't starting from scratch, they typically have something, they've found some product market fit, they've gotten some traction. They're typically maybe doing at least 3 to 5 thousand a month in MRR, and then we can kind of help mold some of their service. So we have this checklist and we kind of work through, and it might take 3, 6 months, 12 months to fully iron this out. We really push to kind of um, you know get them out of the business as much as possible as the ultimate goal, if that aligns with where they want to be. But we're
Yeah.
finding that out, and then we're just kind of implementing all these things, because when you start doing this, the business is going to be a much more enjoyable business, and it's going to be worth a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a lot of businesses that we work with, they'll start and if we were to evaluate their business, it might be a 1 to 1.5x multiple. Because we kind of look at it, we're like, hey, if you were going to sell this business today, like
What's
this
the
is the
value?
multiple you would get because you don't have any of this in place. And, by the time we're done working with them, they could be anywhere from a 3 to 4x multiple, which is a great place to be because now the business is just worth a lot more and has a lot of the systems and processes in place. So yeah, I think 6 to 12 months is pretty reasonable to implement to turn around a lot of bad habits and implement some good things to start putting yourself on the path. It also depends on the entrepreneur, how fast there are the resources available, how willing are they to get out of their own way in most cases.
That's got to be the hardest part right there.
Yeah. Some people just run with it. They know what they want, and other people, it's a little harder. But everyone's on their own journey,
Yeah. So yeah. So what's the story behind Applause Lab?
Yeah. So when I sold my last business, it's funny because you think this is amazing. You go from doing, I was working not much, but you build this thing and your identity is kind of attached, and then you go to nothing.
Yeah. It's like you
sell
sold your baby.
Exactly. And I think that's not talked about. It's good problems to have, not complaining at all, but it was just kind of like, I went through a phase where it was like trying to work and figure out kind of what to do next. And so this was kind of, if you could say, a playground to just work on a project. So Applause Lab is essentially a video testimonial service for e-commerce companies, where we help them capture video testimonials and produce them kind of on autopilot. So
Nice.
it's part technology, part service. Kind of a tech-enabled service is probably the more correct term, but it's a really fun business. And what's cool is I'm pretty much running that, applying a lot of things that we're talking about teaching and productizing, and then I can use that as a case study and example to people that I'm working with or in our private group, etc. So that's been really fun as well. And it's a cool little business. I'm excited to, keep growing that.
Well, that's awesome. So that leads to the next question, which is, do you ever have clients cross over between the companies? Like they use multiple different ones?
Oh, we have had more of like people who are in our group that I work with. A couple of them have signed up for Applause Lab. And I'll give them like a special rate because we're working together. But there has been a little bit of crossover there for sure.
Oh, it's got to be nice. Got to be nice. So what is the process for figuring out rates or pricing for clients, for determining, that set price so that it is productized?
Yeah. That's
Tough
that
question.
is a great question. I think,
because I'm sure it's different for every single
business. I'll take a different angle at it. Because I think the pricing is going to really depend on what you're offering. I think the way I look at it is how I always am trying to shoot for, a 65% gross margin.
Okay.
And that's what we kind of recommend that a service business kind of hits. So that kind of helps you back into pricing in many ways, right? Because if you want to hire, really good contractors or a team, or however you have your business set up, you need to make sure that you have the proper margins and you can kind of, structure the pricing based on that. So that knowing that can kind of help you back into what your pricing could be. And a lot of people that start with us, their margins are in like 40 to 50%, could be less. Like it's just something that they didn't think of. So we're chipping away and trying to work on increasing the gross margin that they have on their services or overall across, many services. And that helps us back into like pricing and how to structure as well. So
Gotcha.
That's kind of where I start.
That's good advice to have, and a good number, good percentage to start with. So, so how are you finding clients for your Productized business? Where are you finding people and agencies that are looking for that type of service?
Yeah, so we just launched the podcast. So we're doing some like content creation. I also helped co-run a Facebook group
Okay.
called Productized Community that I kind of helped co-run for about a good year with my buddy Robin. And he's kind of fully running that now. But I post a lot in there and share content. So Facebook group was definitely good as well. So those are really the only those core places that are driving, potential people interested. I also do podcast interviews kind of like this.
Mm-hmm.
And those have been some great kind of avenues to generate interest and connect with people as well. We haven't done any paid media or anything like that. And I also have an Instagram account as well where I post thinking time graphics,
Okay.
which you might like as well. And it's kind of taking concepts and ideas and visualizing them in graphic form.
Uh-huh.
So they're kind of like mini little business lessons as well. So we've been growing that Instagram channel as well. So that's been kind of fun. But those are kind of the main areas that we're marketing to build kind of an audience.
Gotcha. So tell me about the podcast. Since you mentioned it there, then it's brand new. What made you want to do the podcast, and with it being new, when does it release?
Yeah. So talking about getting out of my own way, it took a bit to get that off the ground. Jeez. Yeah, I think I had the idea of it like 8 months ago, and I actually recorded a few episodes, and I just didn't have, I think timing just didn't have some good processes in place. So I actually have like 30 backlogged episodes currently, and we just released the first one a week ago.
Oh, yay.
And
Okay, good.
and so it is live, and it will be kind of rolling out my goal is to do an episode a week. We might pre-release some of them, because if we did that, we'd have about 7 months of content, which is a great runway, but I want to get some of them out there a little sooner.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the idea was just, I mean, one, it's a great way to connect with people. And I also do these I do these breakdowns, which is kind of interesting. So in my group, I have um, every month or every 2 weeks, I do a productized breakdown where I'll actually sign up for another productized service as a customer, and I'll break down their entire business and look at their funnel and their follow-up emails and how their service worked and what they're doing for marketing and et cetera, and put it into like a report.
Uh-huh.
So some people that I interview as well, that's part of the process, is including their interview and the breakdown. So that's kind of cool. But I think overall it's just great because I can connect with so many other service businesses that are working on really cool things. And I think that was the big kind of driver for me. Was that I know it's kind of more of a long-term play, and
Yeah.
but I think that in the interim it has so many great benefits. That was really the core driver behind launching the podcast as well.
I
I'd
love
never done one before either.
Oh yeah. So you're going in, you're breaking down other people's products. They're not paying you to do this. This is just something you're doing for content purposes.
Exactly. Yeah.
That is incredible. So how do you determine which ones you're going to go in and review? I mean, do you get suggestions, or is this stuff that you just find interesting?
Yeah. So right now the driver for my decisions is two things. One, like I'll post in my group and ask
Mm-hmm.
them, like, here's some I'm considering. As well, like this month, for example, there's a lot of people that are, you know, really trying to grow with with lead gen and getting traffic and doing maybe outbound marketing, LinkedIn, cold email, etc. So my breakdown this month is going to be focused on that.
Uh-huh.
And then I also try to see what correlates, what can I actually use for Applause Lab.
Yeah.
So I'm not just signing up for something that I can't use. So I'll usually use Applause Lab as a company signing up, and then I can actually use the service. So we did a great breakdown on ad zombies, if you're familiar with that
I'm
business,
not.
which
Ad
was really,
zombies.
really cool. So we have a full breakdown on their business. They do about, I think, 800K a month,
Oh,
and all
wow.
they do is write copy for Facebook ads for other agencies. So that was a really interesting,
Wow.
business. And then the one I'm doing this month is on cleverly.co, which is a LinkedIn outbound kind of lead gen service. And they're doing anywhere from a 300 to 500,000 a month, just doing LinkedIn messages for different businesses.
I was about to say that sounds so familiar. Where do I see that? It was one of your links. I was like, I've seen that name somewhere. I think you sent
Oh,
me a link over when we were talking about doing this podcast.
okay,
So,
cool. Yeah, maybe I did mention it. Yeah, so those have been really fun, and I think those will, I've really been enjoying it. Plus, it's awesome to just connect with those people, see how they're running their business, see what is working, what isn't, and then I can share that content as well with the group. And the breakdowns have been really, really cool. So
so what
I'm
all do you
excited to
cover
keep
in
doing
the
those.
breakdowns?
Well, we're looking at their overall business, and I'll send you one after this if you'd like to just
Yeah, I
check it
would love
out.
to
But
link it into our podcast notes for sure.
yeah, so typically, we're covering their business, an overview, of course, the actual interview with the owner. Um, and then below, we're also breaking down some of their operations. So, like from the customer side, so I don't have access to their business, but from an outsider, I can kind of
Mhm.
see like what are their systems from signing up to going through. Do they have an onboard? What kind is their onboarding flow? They have an onboarding call. What are the email follow-ups they send? How do I actually sign up and pay? So all those are documented, screen recorded. And then what else? We're also looking at the technology they're using. So we use Built With and some other tools to actually see what are they actually using. What are they running their website on? What tools are they using for project management, etc. So we're breaking down those. Then we're also looking, are they running paid media? So via like Facebook ad library and LinkedIn ad library, you can look and see what ads are they running right now, where are those ads going. So we can get a pretty good idea. I don't have full access, obviously, because I'm just,
Well, I think it's
uh,
neat that you don't have full access. So you're just
yeah,
a consumer that's coming in and just dissecting things. And I think as a business
exactly.
owner, that's got to be it's got to be really good information for them, because when you're in it yourself, you see it
Of
from your point of
course.
view. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to see it from the customer's point of view. So that's got to be incredible. So do you reach out to these business owners and say, hey, I want to dissect your business and then talk about it? Or how does that conversation go?
Yeah, well, some of them are totally, I mean, like Ken from Ad Zombies, we just had a great interview and just really transparent. I mean, told me all of his numbers. Like, so some people are just, an open book, which is really, really cool. And they'll share customer numbers, revenue numbers. And so that aspect is really awesome, because I think all of us can learn so much and from that side of things. So typically I'm doing, working with people and doing breakdowns where they are very transparent. If someone is really closed off and doesn't want to do any of that, then I can move on to the next company as well.
Yeah. So in any of these interviews, is stuff that you found, was it things that they could come in, they took your information and changed what they were doing in their business and changed the business for them?
That I do not know.
Not known yet.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see if they did or not. A lot of it too, it's none of the breakdowns aren't even, I mean, they're not negative or anything. It's more of like, my opinion and seeing what they're doing, oftentimes what they're doing really well.
Yeah.
And then things they could improve, as well. But I don't know if they actually ran with
If they
implementing or
implement them,
changing anything. Yeah.
that'd be interesting to know. Yeah,
As I do more
definitely.
and more of these, maybe,
Circle back
people will
around.
reach out. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So, if you could give some advice to your younger self, somebody that's just starting out as an entrepreneur, what advice would you give yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first thing that kind of comes to mind is just, try more stuff and not worry about what other people think.
Mm,
I think that is, when you're younger, that's definitely a hurdle to overcome in many areas that maybe took me longer to kind of, push through. So
I
I
think
think
we all
that'll
have to
probably
get to
be
a certain age before that hits where you just don't care anymore. Not that you don't care, but you
exactly.
don't care whatever the people think of you. You're just like, I'm gonna be me and it's gonna be okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, yeah, that would be kind of, I think, the first thing, maybe give them a copy of The Road Less Stupid and, you know, just, be on my way.
Yeah. Good. That's good advice. So do you have any other projects or companies that you can tell us about? Anything you got going on or coming up besides the podcast?
Yeah, no, I mean, the main thing is, I'm running Productize my service and the group that I have there, which has been a lot of fun to kind of help all these different service businesses, is called Productize Mentor.
Oh, okay.
And it's just a closed group that we kind of collaborate and have biweekly calls and share these breakdowns and resources and et cetera. And then Applause Lab is really kind of the testing ground of businesses for me. But those are the core projects. I'm really enjoying both of those. And I think the only other thing is, I mean, the ultimate goal for me, as well as obviously helping people in the meantime, service businesses related. But I'm also looking, as you mentioned in my intro, to invest in some of these businesses as well. Like, I really want to find these different service businesses that have potential, great entrepreneurs running them, and then make small investments into their businesses as well. So we've done a couple investments already, but I definitely want to keep an eye out and finding cool businesses like that to partner up with.
Yeah, so that's one thing we didn't dig into was the 300editors.com on your blog. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so that is this will actually go the opposite direction here. That was a business we bought. We rebranded it to proofreadingpros.io, and
Okay.
it's actually a business we closed down.
Okay.
So yeah, so recently we did close it down. Yeah, for many reasons, it just wasn't the priority, and performance-wise, just wasn't doing it. So we just allocated resources in some other
Elsewhere.
ways. But it
Gotcha.
was it was a cool service, but it just didn't get the traction we wanted.
Gotcha. So were you being very transparent on putting it on your blog and letting people watch you along the process? Is that what that was all about?
Yeah, exactly. So during the time that we had that business, it was definitely very much that. And that's what I try to do with Applause Lab as well, as sharing, we're building out some outbound systems for, LinkedIn and cold email right now. And I'm trying to share all that in our group, because I think everyone's at some point doing some aspect of these.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, that's
I
kind of what
love
that
that
looks
you're
like right now.
transparent. I love that you're transparent because people can learn. I mean, that's one of the reasons we do the podcast, or I do this podcast, is that you learn so much from listening to other people and seeing what they've gone through. And it either encourages you to do it or keeps you from doing something stupid. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yes. So one of the last questions that I always ask, is there anything that you're currently reading, watching, or listening to that is helping you grow as a person, as a human being, as a leader, besides the road less stupid?
Yeah. Let's see. I've got, honestly, this year has been really about creating over consuming. So that's been kind of the motto this year. So I literally have The Road Less Stupid marked up. You can see it here, actually.
So it's probably right in
It's
front of you.
yeah, it's just, really kind of falling apart here. And I reference that a lot for just different things and how I'm helping different people, but not consuming a ton, to be honest. Yeah,
That's
it's
not a bad
mainly,
thing.
yeah. I mean, there's some little things here and there. I mean, I'm loving. I don't know if you ever listened to the Naval podcast.
Mm-mm.
Naval is a kind of a philosopher investor in Silicon Valley, but he has a podcast that's 1 to 3 minutes an episode. They're just short snippets of him just talking and just gems of wisdom.
In
So that,
1 minute, that's incredible.
yeah. So definitely check it out. It's just Naval, and he's got some good stuff. And so that one's was like little bite-size snacks, it's
Yeah.
nothing crazy. But yeah, those are really the only things I'm kind of consuming at the moment, and reading, and just really focusing, like I said, on just creating and podcasts to, these thinking time graphics I told you about and helping members. So that's really kind of been the core of the focus.
Gotcha. Well, before we started the podcast, we were also talking about the fact that you are living in Colombia right now, which is incredible. So what do you do in Colombia for your off time? What do you do for fun around there?
Oh man. Well, non-quarantine days.
Yeah. So before.
Yeah, depending when you're listening to this, it's a very outdoor city, so very mountainous, very green. It's on the equator, but also at 8,000 feet. So it's in this weird kind of place where it's very cool. Rains a lot, but I have 2 dogs, so I trek around the city with my dogs. I also love to salsa dance, so great place to be for that.
Yeah.
There's a great nomad community here as well, just entrepreneurs building other businesses here, which is really cool. But yeah, those are the main things. I play a lot of chess.
Okay.
Yeah, so try to do as much outdoor stuff as possible.
Yeah.
So right now it's kind of killing me a little bit,
A
can't
little
get
bit.
outside as much as I want.
Yeah. I think it's killing all of us right now, no matter where you live.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
So where can people find more information about you? Where can they go to find more?
Yeah, I think productizemyservice.com is a great place. Or you can follow me on Instagram, which I'm on any of the socials. That's probably where I'm most active, and that's just at Productized Mentor.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so very much for being on the show, Tyler. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and I'm a teeny bit jealous that you're in Colombia and not stuck here in the States, but
No, thank you.
super excited to have you, and thanks for sharing your business insights with us.
Thanks so much.
All right, guys, we'll see you next Tuesday.
You've been listening to the Digital Agency Insiders Podcast. For more tutorials on growing your digital marketing agency, make sure to visit digitalagencyinsiders.com.